Breakneck through the Bible, 2017-2018, class number 34. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, we will be having a 2-week break starting next Monday night, when we will we'll be out of town for those next 2 weeks. And so everyone, please get your vacation out of your system, because when you come back after vacation, you have to learn like doubly hard, like to make up for all the vacation that you had. So we got to make sure we tell God, like, we took a 2-week break, but we came back and we learned better. So like then it's okay, like, to take the break. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Rabbi.
Yes.
They missed your speech yesterday, right?
But yes.
How many people show up?
No. So we had a wonderful speech yesterday. And by the way, the speech was recorded yesterday. It's on. If I remember, I'll put a link to it. It's on the Shari Tefillah Facebook page. I'll post it on mine. So if you want to give a talk about Tisha B'Av, it'll be there. Okay, so we ended off last week on page 37, right? 37, and we are up to chapter 8, right? Chapter 8, and we ended off talking about, right, only Noach survived. That, and the Talmud says only Noach survived. And when it says Noach, it means an individual. So where's only Noach? Right, so it says only Noach is that either there was somebody else, Rabbi talked that either that Og was hanging on to the ark, right, or that Noach survived, but he came late to feed the lion and he got mauled. And right, and just by the way, just interesting, you just point that out. How do you say giant in English? Giant, ogre. You know where the word English word ogre comes from? From the biblical giant Og. Right. So that's a take. Right. Og is right. Right, is ogre. Right, and that's serious. And a lot of English words, actually a lot of languages have the roots in Hebrew. Right, ever showed the one about fruit? No, how do you say fruit in Hebrew? Fruit. Pri. And how do you say multiple fruit? Peirot. Right. You know how you spell peirot? Pei Reish Vav Saf. And if you phonetically spell out that word, what does it come to? Fruit.
Oh, fruit, yeah.
Fruit, right? Right. Pei is root, fruit, right? It has a fruit, right? So there are a lot of words in the English section, in the English language, that actually have their roots in the Hebrew, biblical Hebrew. And that's because all the languages in the world actually come from biblical Hebrew. Okay, all the languages in the world actually come from biblical Hebrew, right? Because that is the language that God spoke to Adam and Eve. That's the language that Adam and Eve spoke, right? And so they spoke using all those languages, right? The biblical Hebrew, all the way up till the Tower of Babel.
What about Sanskrit, Rabbi? Some people say all languages come from Sanskrit.
No, the answer is God spoke to Adam and Eve in biblical Hebrew.
Thank you.
Okay, just let me repeat that again. Right? Tell your people that my people said, right? That God spoke to Adam and Eve in biblical Hebrew. Okay, and so the world, right? The world, right? That's the only language the world knew, right? Until the flood, right? And so then where they come, right? Then where that comes from, right? Then all the other languages, 70 main languages, came then at the Tower of Babel, and from there, then a bunch of different dialects, etc., showed up, right? But till then, right? It all comes from biblical Hebrew. Right, so really, if you want to understand all the language of the world, you can actually begin going and looking biblical Hebrew. They'll be sourced. They'll be rooted in that. It'll kind of just be very fascinating. Right? That's just an interesting thing. Okay, fantastic. So, chapter 8, verse 1. Mark, you want to read?
And God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the animals that were with him in the ark. And God caused a spirit to pass over the earth, and the waters subsided. Okay,
so it says God remembered Noah. Now, did God forget Noah?
No.
So what does it mean when it says God, right? When it says God remembered Noah?
He's kind of changed his mind already. situation.
So what? So what?
Let
So,
him out of the ark.
so what does it mean? Remembered.
He's ready to show mercy.
Remember, what does it mean? He remembered.
Well,
I'm worried about remembering because could God forget?
But you
No.
put remembering.
No.
It's a human. You can't relate to God we can only relate to God in the way we understand it. So when you say remembered,
Right.
it's
Time is out for.
we're trying to humanize our understanding.
Right.
So he means God obviously God didn't forget because he doesn't.
Right. Good. So, right. So when it's right. So what does it mean? Remembered.
So he's ready to show mercy.
He's ready to show mercy. Okay. Right. So it means that he's putting it to action now. Right. Right. What are you doing? But it doesn't mean he forgot. God doesn't forget. Right. And so therefore it says God remembers Noah. Period. Right. That's right. That's what took place.
Maybe that means that the rain is subsided. Things calm down.
The
Yeah.
The rain and the flood.
yes, right. So it's a good right, and know that when and God caused the spirit to pass over. Well, remember the rain stopped after 40 days. It only rained for
What
40
day is
days.
this? When did God remember him?
There's 150 days, 190 days, right? But it said, but remember, why did the world keep on flooding after 40 days?
The water came up from
Because the water came up from the ground, and that water kept on coming up and up and up, and that was kind of like just boiling over the world, right? Spreading out over the world. Right, and so that kept on going till 190 days. Right now it says, and God caused the spirit to pass over the earth, and the water subsided. Means like it was kind of just when God went, shh, right? It just kind of took his hand and just kind of just laid it across the water. And in that point in time, that's when the water stopped coming up, and then water began to go down.
The spirit did that.
That's the spirit of God.
So
Right?
it took about a year to go down, right?
It took well again. The whole flood from beginning to end, to Noah getting on the ark until him getting off the ark was 365 days.
So it's a whole year.
So again, if this was already 150 days after the 40 days, right? So you have the 190 days. You're halfway there.
So if you have all this water rushing out, going down very quickly,
Right.
can you imagine the canyons it carved?
Right. Oh, for sure. Oh, how the whole world, right? How the whole world was shaped.
Yeah, everything was.
So he landed after the 40 days. This is after he landed.
No. He's still in the ark. He's still
Floating.
He's still floating, and he's gonna. If it's 190 days, he still has another 175 days left. Right. Right.
And he doesn't know how long it's going to be.
He doesn't know how long he's going to be. Right? I do not believe anywhere that it says how long he was going to be on the ark. And he was going to be exactly where God told him to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So he prepared for the comeback of the world.
Yeah?
But did he prepare himself? Survival.
What do you mean?
Like have enough food or water
Yeah.
to drink for 10 years.
He had plenty of water.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
salt water, right?
What?
It was salt water, wasn't it?
And well, the water that came
Oh,
down
rain.
was rainwater.
Oh, rainwater.
But it rained for 40 days. Yeah, so it's
And the fountains were also probably fresh.
fresh water, yeah, probably.
So water was not a problem.
Even though it's not so simple, because again, it really was. Right, because you needed water, right? You needed water, and because it's very interesting. Now, one of the things you saw on the ark was that what did they do with the garbage on the ark?
Bottom level.
The third floor.
The third, why didn't they just throw it overboard?
They needed
Because,
fertilizer to restock the soil.
Because the rain is like a mikvah. You're cleaning the earth, so you're not going to soil it.
So it's very interesting. So what happened was
Very good
is that they were closed off from the world, right? They were living in the ark, and there was no interaction with the rest of the world, right? They were put on the ark, and they were sort of living in their own cocoon,
Yeah.
right? This cocoon that was protected by God. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to get way back from where the construction of the Noah. So we've gotten this far so good.
Mhm.
But Netflix had a show documentary about the building of Noah's Ark.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only a fraction of the size. And it was such a mess. I mean, such a mess that it was leaking. And it wasn't floating right. They had to put a water extraction into. But they thought it was round instead of oval, And
A rectangle.
Yeah, a rectangle. The show, it's on Netflix. It's amazing. They had so many guys, so much professional sawing away and everything, and they just couldn't imitate it.
Yeah, no, I mean the whole thing actually is quite interesting because it's just interesting is that the right, let's say sawing away, right, or like doing this stuff. Right, the whole arc at the end of the day was just one big miracle. Okay, right, like it was just from beginning to end. It was just he fit every animal in the world, right, 2 of every animal and 14 of every kosher animal, and that he had enough food on it, right, and kind of supplies on it, and how did it float? It was just like a square rectangle, right? You know, people that show like a boat. I don't know that looked like a boat.
Oh, rectangle?
It was a rectangle.
They said it was.
It was rectangle, probably like this table. It's 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, right, and 30 cubits tall.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there was no rudder on it. There was no way to steer it.
No.
And can you imagine being in a stormy sea without a rudder and without a propulsion system?
Completely at the whim of God.
What? Completely right. Completely at the whim of God.
Right.
Right? And right for an entire year, they floated at the whim of God. And the first 190 days was the water was violent.
No
Remember,
leaks.
remember, it's scrubbing the surface. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's like scrubbing the surface of the earth. Right? It took off the top right foot of right, three handbreadths, right? So roughly 11 inches, 10.5 inches of topsoil of the entire world was flushed away, right? I mean, like it was a. And by the way, I even feel that it was radioactive, which is why all the people that use radioactive carbon dating doesn't really work either, because there was a healthy dose of radio activity that came and that pervaded the earth at that point in time. Right, so therefore,
Why do you think that?
because one of the words in the Torah it uses over here is it uses a similar word that it uses in the Haggadah. Right on Passover, right before we do the 10 plagues, right, we say dam va'esh v'timros ashan. Right, what does dam mean? Blood. Ve'esh, fire, and v'timros asham. What is v'timros asham? So if you take a look in all our nice, our nice yellow, Goldman, red and yellow Haggadahs from our childhood, or the Maxwell House, they all translated it as a pillar, okay, as a pillar of fire. Okay, v'timros asham, meaning a pillar of fire. What's interesting is that how do you say pillar of fire? Amud, right? We had a pillar of fire when we left Egypt. God led us with a pillar of fire called an amud esh. But in the Hebrew it doesn't say amud esh. What does it say in the Hebrew? Timros ashan. What does the word vitimros come from? What is the root of the word vitimros?
I haven't got to that far in my portion.
We have 2 Israelis here. What is tamar?
Oh,
Vitimros ashan. Right, the word vitimros, vitomer, comes from a tamar. What's a tamar? A date tree. Does anyone know what a date tree looks like?
Yeah.
very tall.
Tall,
With a high crown.
with a high crown, otherwise known as a mushroom cloud. So it says dam in the Haggadah. It says dam va'esh v'timros ashan. Dam, blood, va'esh is fire, v'timros ashan, and a mushroom cloud of fire. And now you ask me why this radioactive. So right, is that and we'll come across that in Parshas Noach, but it also uses that it seems that there was a radioactive cloud, right? And so therefore, at that point in time, it makes a lot of sense. That's why I said that because the water was boiling, right? The Talmud says the water was hot water was boiling, right? And so therefore there was a tremendous amount of heat. This flood was not your regular flood. Yeah.
So was the soil radioactive because the people were evil? Or was it the radioactive soil made the people evil.
Oh no. Well, the flood was radioactive, right? It came in.
The soil that people were growing things on.
That was corrupt. That's why it had to be removed. So the full topsoil, right, was removed from the earth, which is also quite fascinating. Because how much topsoil is there on ground, like on farmland?
A foot.
6 inches.
In the I think actually 6. I think it's even less than 6 inches. Man, is it right? A couple inches, right? Inch or two, a couple inches. It's not a lot, right? Right? It's not a lot. I mean, but it was 10.5 inches was removed, right, from the was just removed off the face of the earth. I just completely wiped off.
Radioactive soil.
There was the water was radioactive.
So are you saying you think that the radioactivity was part of the purification of the earth
Yes.
rather than something that
Was there already? Yeah.
So it was like a giant cooling tower for all the radioactive once.
Yeah.
It brings up an interesting question, though. How would the sea life have survived that?
Oh, how would the sea life survive that? And what's the simple answer?
Nonsense.
The same way Noah survived that. Right? The same way the animals survived it. Right? It was a year where the world stopped functioning in how we know it. Right? There was no sunrise, there was no sunset. Right? It was like dusk.
Wait a second. You don't know that because Noah was in a cocoon.
Right?
So he couldn't tell you.
Of course. I know nothing of this because Noah told it to me.
Oh.
Because God said it.
Where did God say it?
Right here.
Talmud.
On Mount Sinai, right? Moses, right? Remember, Moses wrote this, right? Just remember, the flood happened in the year 1656. So 990, 792 years later, God came and dictated the Torah, right, to Moses, and Moses wrote this down. Right, so the only reason we know it is because God said it, right, which is quite fascinating, which is a very important point. Everything we know from the creation of the world, right, until coming to Mount Sinai, how do we know that that's what happened?
God told us.
Because God told it to us at Mount Sinai, right, and gave the Talmud along with it, right, to what went on. Right, you're following, right? That's where it took place.
Okay, but before that, many things has happened. So why these?
So why?
Noah's, why this chapter? Why so many things has happened? I mean, Moshe could write anything he wanted,
Right.
and God told him to write what he's supposed to write.
And then right. Moshe wrote exactly what God dictated to him.
Okay, so it could have been other stories. So many other stories out there.
That what?
Life.
Better, but God told Moses exactly how it happened.
So why Noah? Why specifically Noah?
Why did God tell the story of Noah? Because it's a very important lesson to mankind, the story of Noah. Right? What's the lesson to mankind to learn from the story of Noah?
Don't be evil.
Don't be evil. And if you are evil, you forfeit the right to exist on this world. That's the story of Noah. Right? It's the story about man became so corrupt, they corrupted the entire earth. And they destroyed the earth with it.
Well, after Noah's time, there were so many evils. And
Correct.
Hitler
And
is the most part of it.
And the Torah keeps, and if he would have learned Torah, he would have been a better person. Right? The problem was he didn't learn Torah. Right? Is that right? As you go through, right? But that's how we know this stuff. And that's why it's very fascinating when God gave the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. Right? What's the first of the Ten Commandments?
You shall remember that I am the Lord your God.
I am Hashem, your God,
Took you out of Egypt
who took you out of Egypt from the house of slavery,
to be a God.
to be your God, right? Let me ask you a question. What's a greater miracle? Taking the Jews out of Egypt or creating the world?
Taking the Jews out of Egypt.
Taking the Jews out of Egypt. So can I ask you a question? No. A greater miracle? What's a greater miracle?
Taking the Jews out of Egypt.
No. Creating the world. Greater miracle?
Why is it a greater miracle?
Creating the world? You know what you have to do to create a world? Create something out of nothing? Create a mass? Right? To create the mass and then you put everything into all this
For
thing?
God, it's nothing to do that.
Yeah, taking the Jews out of Egypt is also nothing.
Just for us, it's different.
It's not, right, for us it's different. And yet it says, I'm Hashem your God who took you out of Egypt. It doesn't say, I'm Hashem your God who created the heavens and the earth. That would seem to be a much more compelling argument,
Yes.
right?
We weren't around. No one was around when the world was created.
No,
so you could relate to the being removed from Egypt.
So one answer is what you're saying, is that taking us out of Egypt made it very personal. And our hides were in the fire, God came and took us out. God took us out, ergo, we are required to serve Him. Right?
It was a greater miracle that He created the world, because taking us out of Egypt is undoing a wrong that also God created.
Oh, boy.
Whoa, say it again?
Oh,
Say it again, say it again.
Us being enslaved in Egypt
Yeah.
was a wrong.
Really? A wrong by who?
By having slaves?
What do you-
I know, you're going to say we needed to learn a lesson by being slaves.
Right.
But the people suffered,
Right.
but
So was it wrong by who? The Egyptians were wrong for doing it.
yes.
Okay, good. Okay.
And that is also something Hashem created.
Mm-hmm.
He created the Egyptians.
People had choices.
Right. So
Right.
He created the wrong, and He undid the wrong. By creating the world,
Yeah.
when He created the world, it was perfect.
When He created the world, right? Okay.
So it's better
You think it's a better lesson?
that He created perfection than He undid imperfection.
So what should it say? So I'm Hashem your God who
Created the world.
right. So why doesn't it say that? So says the Talmud, and this Nachmanides brings down, is that the reason why it says I'm Hashem your God who took you out of Egypt is because we, the Jewish people, had experienced it firsthand. We didn't have to take anybody's nobody's notes from it. Right. So therefore, right, it's right. It's black and white. It's right. We experienced it with our own hands. Right.
Well, and I mean, He's also the God of the Egyptians. It's just that the Egyptians didn't know it.
Correct. Correct. He's the God of the world. Just lots of people don't ever figure that out yet.
Some of them went though with him. Didn't more Egyptians?
Yeah. Right. A lot of Egyptians that came with us. Right. That came and did that. Right. They went ahead and they joined us. But that's what I said. But that's because that's something that we saw personally. Right. That we went ahead and we were personally we were personally taken out with God. Right. We were that we had experienced firsthand, and that's why he wrote it.
Because without God intervention, there is no way that look at the human condition under the yoke of the Egyptian.
Mm-hmm.
There is no exit. So if He say I am the one who take you out there, it means that without me you can't not do it.
Again, so we have responsibility, right? There's the reasons given, but one of the big ideas is that we didn't experience it firsthand, right? This we experienced firsthand, and since we experienced it firsthand, God says, my relationship built with you is a first-hand experience, right? It's not that you have to take somebody's word for it, right? And that's really the key. Right, figuring out and understanding that.
It's personal.
Right,
It's not business, it's personal.
It's personal, right. Right, it's very personal. So that's why. Okay, so so God caused the Spirit to pass over the water, and the water subsided. Okay, verse number 2.
The fountains of the deep and the windows of the heavens were closed, and the rain from heaven was restrained. The waters then receded from upon the earth, receding continuously, and the waters diminished at the end of 150 days. And the ark came to rest in the 7th month, on the 7th day of the month, upon the mountains of
17th
Arafat.
day of the month.
17 days, upon the mountains of Arafat.
Ararat. Arafat's a dead man, but okay. Right, so the ark came to rest in the 7th month. Right, the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. That's when the ark, that's when it landed on the mountain. And a lot of people say, where is the mountain of Ararat?
Turkey.
Turkey, right? That's what they say. Turkish area. Probably depends on the month which one it is. Alrighty, go ahead.
The waters were continuously diminishing until the 10th month. On the 10th month, on the first of the month, the tops of the mountains became visible.
Okay. For the first time, he knew he hit land, right? When the bottom of the ark went down, right? In the 17th day of the 7th month, right? And then on the 10th month, in the first of the month, right? So then the tops of the mountain were visible. By the way, it's just interesting, right? So what is the 10th month?
Av, isn't it?
What?
Is it Av?
What?
December, when it
October.
comes to shirt on.
No. So it's talking about the Hebrew months, right?
Well, I know, but what would be December in Hebrew?
What?
That would be the one.
No.
It wasn't a, I mean, it wasn't a,
Actually, it's interesting, right? Okay.
See, what is the 7th
Right. Right. So Rashi says, right, that it was the month of Av, okay, which is this month that we're in now, right? On the first day of the month of Av, right, which was actually last Sunday, right, a week ago Sunday, right? Today is the 11th of Av, right? So there was actually, right, 10 days ago was the first of Av. That's when the mountains became visible. It's also interesting. Who died on the
the temple was destroyed?
No. 9th of Av is when the temple became destroyed. Who died on the 1st of Av?
Who died in the first of Av?
Moses.
No, Moses died on the 7th of Adar. Right, it's the 12th, right? Right, so who died, right? Somebody close to Moses. Aaron. Right, it's Aaron's church. All right, right. Aaron, right, died, right. Okay. Anyway, so the tops of the mountains became visible. Okay, go ahead. Verse number 6. Joyce, want to read?
And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. He sent out the raven, and it kept going and returning until the waters dried from upon the earth.
Right, so what did he do? He first took out the raven and sent the raven around, Mr. Raven, to go to check up, right? To check up
If you can land somewhere.
if he could land somewhere. And what did Mr. Raven say?
Kept coming back.
He kept coming back and flying around.
Negatory.
So why didn't the raven do his job?
Have a nice job, Rabbi.
The water hadn't receded enough.
No
Right?
place to land.
The what?
No
There's no place
place.
to land.
There's no place to land.
Right.
But it doesn't say he was looking around. What does it say?
Coming back.
Going and returning.
He kept coming and returning?
Right.
There had to be a place to land if the tops of
Okay.
the mountains were visible.
Your wife
You're in
is here.
trouble now.
Alrighty. Okay, we're going to end class today early. Everyone have a nice break. We will see you all same bat time, same bat station
In 2 weeks.
in 3 weeks. Right? The next 2 Mondays you are off. Have a wonderful
Have a safe trip.
wonderful day. Okay. Don't tell Rabbi Feigenbaum we're coming, and we're banned from social media for the next 12 hours. All right, everyone have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.